Hello. This is the Porgcorner with your hosts Mark and Steven. We talk comics, film, books, television, science, and aliens. We come from different nerddoms. Steven lives and breathes Star Wars, and I am a Superman and DC fanatic. With both franchises seeing controversy and division the past few years, we want to offer our perspectives on what has gone wrong and right in the worlds of DC and Star Wars. Now, let's get to episode 2, our Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse review. So, Steven, we got a chance to see Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse last night. We both came out of the theater really liking the film.
Yeah. I don't see how you couldn't.
Yeah, they kind of pull you in with the first kind of introduction, which is kind of like the Columbia Pictures logo, the Sony Pictures logo. And they had kind of this, you had mentioned it.
Yeah, right in the opening credits, we're seeing all these production companies come across the screen, as in every movie, but they're all glitching. And the logos are constantly changing as if they're from alternate universes. I was like, look, we're going through different universes. They're glitching the logos. As a graphic designer, that's really important to me, is what the logos look like. You know?
Yeah, and it kind of reminded me of, like, remember when Marvel just started with the MCU and they had the comic book flipping? And at that time it was new. Like, we're all used to it now.
Right.
But at the time it was like, oh, wow, mind blown. You know, that's just a really cool.
Right, yeah.
So anyway, that was a really good kind of first impression of the movie that it gave to, it seems, both of us. So let's kind of piggyback from that and talk more about the visuals of the film itself, because it is visually stunning. It's a different type of animation. What did you think about the general animation of the film?
So we talked a little bit about this right after we got out of the movie, and I was really taken aback at how it was visually stunning. But the best part about it was they focused when the main character is in focus on screen, the background was fuzzy. Not that it was pulling focus out of it, but it was more like if you were looking at your comic book and it was that one square of the image, and the building in the background just wasn't quite as detailed artwork as Spider-Man in the foreground.
Right.
And they did it throughout, and it was really, really neat. The other piece that I picked up on is they used a lot of the dot matrix artwork. When you print a comic book, they use dot matrix because it's inexpensive, it's a 3-color process. And so when something was out of focus, the dots didn't align, but as things became in focus, the dots were overlapping and gave you the full dark, bright color that you wanted from that matrix. Yeah,
I'm not a graphic designer, so I don't know any of those things at all. So I could really only talk about visually what stood out to me was that each character had a different animation style, and you pointed this out as well after the movie. That fit with their character. So one of the characters is Spider-Man Noir, and that animation style looks like it came out of an animated noir film.
Right, He was black and white, and when I say black and white, I mean the blacks were black and the white was white. He wasn't just a black and white 3-dimensional character, so you kind of felt flat. He felt a little 2-dimensional, which was really neat.
Yeah, and the way they kind of even drew him, I guess that goes to your point, is that he seemed a little bit, I guess, thicker, if you will, compared to the other Spider characters.
Yeah, because he was so flat. Not that he really was flat. You could tell he had a third dimension to him. Yeah. But there was no highlights and lowlights. He didn't have a shadow effect to him. He didn't have the third dimension. His arm wasn't round. It was flat.
Right. So that probably is what contributed to that.
Yeah.
Again, Steven mentioned it last episode, but he looks at those technical things that usually go over my head. So you call into that one. Let's talk a little bit kind of about the end scene where they are in the collider and all the different visual elements from all these universes are coming together. That reminded me a lot of things like Doctor Strange, Inception, just buildings coming in and out of each other.
Yeah.
Except this was more colorful, and I thought it was pretty incredible to see.
Yeah, I mean, you could have done the entire movie. It could have just been that battle scene, and I think we all would have been very happy.
Yeah.
But I didn't think about the Inception thing. That was really cool because at one point when the collider is operational and working, skyscrapers start coming out of it in every direction, 360 degrees of different skyscrapers, and they were folding on top of each other and entering and exiting, as well as the fact that some of them were really colorful and some of them were in black and white. They were coming from the alternate universes.
Yeah, they really handled the alternate universe aspect of the Spider-Man universe really well. So let's kind of transition to like the overall narrative of the story in terms of this film. Basically, Spider-Man has a 90s version that a lot of us grew up on. He has the 67 or the 60s Super Friends style cartoon version. He has the comics going back, to the 60s, the original comic. And then he has various other iterations. And this film is taking all of those iterations and making a narrative around that. And they seem to pull it off, because that is a complicated thing to do.
For sure. Yeah, I enjoyed that. And, kind of going back to the Super Collider battle scene, each character in their battle moment has some element of their universe around them. So they're kind of battling in their element when they're taking on one of the villains. And mostly our main character, the Spider-Man from our universe, where it takes place, he interacts with the environment from all the other universes in the Super Collider. He spins a web from the pig Spider-Man's location, and then he hits something that's black and white off in the distance, and so he's using all of it, whereas most of them kind of almost focus on their own universe.
So I think I have a correction for you, Steven.
Okay.
I don't think Miles Morales is in our universe, because
Sorry, not our universe. I just meant from the perspective
of the audience
watching what universe the movie is taking place in.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
No, not our universe. I understand that.
Yeah, because we have one Peter Parker that really exists in our universe. Just so everyone's clear, he actually is real. Okay, so let's talk about
Did you just tell me you think Spider-Man, Peter Parker, is a living and breathing human being?
You can't disprove that.
Oh, are we gonna argue about proving negatives?
No, we've done that too much this week already.
We have done that a few times this week.
Too many alien conversations.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the characters, since I brought up like the real Peter Parker who exists. Let's talk about Miles Morales though, and the actor who did the voice for him, Shamik Moore. I thought he was excellent.
I do too.
I hadn't seen this actor in films before or heard his voice, but I thought he really kind of embodied... I mean, Miles is supposed to be like basically, 14, 15 years old? Something like that. Pretty young. And he was able to embody that kind of inquisitive teenage nature, the rebellious teenage nature of this character, and also give him a lot of empathy. I felt like he was just a character that I could really relate to. At least when I was that age.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I could definitely see that for you as well. I mean, you're born and raised in New York City. I mean, that's where this is all taking place. Right. No, I agree. I felt empathy for him. I felt, that I'm a teenager. I was a teenager. I didn't want to say, I love you too, Dad, like in front of the entire school. That was a great scene.
That was amazing.
Such a great scene.
And his dad, that was another key character, obviously, in the story. And I'm blanking on who played him, but I thought he was a strong character. He specifically kind of was the driving force before Miles becomes Spider-Man. He basically leads Miles to become Spider-Man in a sort of unexpected way, I would say.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about this off air.
Yeah.
From your perspective, you're saying that he is the Uncle Ben moment, is talking to his father talking to him.
Right.
Whereas I lean more towards the death of his uncle being the Uncle Ben moment for our current Spider-Man.
Yeah, let's return to that conversation a little bit later in the episode, because that is like a whole topic.
It is a whole topic. Yeah, you're right. I tangent.
It's a key moment. So, all right. So next character. Let's talk about the Peter Parker that is killed by Kingpin early on in the film. He is 26 years old when he's killed. He seeks to have his whole life in front of him, and he's been very successful as Spider-Man, and everyone loves him. Mary Jane is married to him at this point, and he is killed. He's also blonde, and he's played by Chris Pine.
Yeah.
Which I didn't realize, so I looked it up.
Right.
Because I did not recognize the voice. But what did you think of his brief moment in the film?
I mean, that was a great Spider-Man. I think it's the Spider-Man you want Spider-Man to have been.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's kind of why they did that. They're like, he is the ultimate positive image of a Spider-Man.
Right.
And everything's going right for him.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but did the film, and we've only seen the film once, but did the film start with that Spider-Man? No, it started with Miles, right?
It starts with Miles.
And then we get
No, you're right. What you're asking, the intro.
Yeah.
When it says, I'm the only Spider-Man, it's Chris Pine's Spider-Man flying through the air. And then it does a cut scene to Miles, who's not a Spider-Man.
Right. And you know why that stood out to me is because, again, he kind of represents the Spider-Man that exists in the real world. So the one that we all kind of grew up with, the classic Spider-Man in a sense, like he gets Mary Jane, he
gets the girl.
The city loves him except for J. Jonah Jameson.
Yeah.
And he's generally always saving the day, and they mention that in the film.
Right.
So to open with that, to get us kind of, I don't know, familiar.
Traditional.
With this universe, traditional,
yeah.
was a really smart way that they got us to kind of come on board with this film.
Sure.
Actually,
yeah.
Instead of opening with like a different spider.
Can I tangent off that real quick?
Yep.
I loved that each introduction of a new Spider-Man started the comic book over. They would throw the book on the table, it would roll back to the cover of it, and it would be that Spider-Man. The one and the only Spider-Girl. Or,
right.
The one, the only Peter Parker. And they did it a few times, and I really enjoyed that.
At the very end, when Miles becomes really Spider-Man and embraces his destiny.
Yeah, he gets his cover moment. Yeah. It starts over once again. Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
It was really, really cool.
All right, next character. Let's talk about Gwen Stacy. She is played by Haley Steinfeld, who is in Bumblebee. That's out right now, or coming out soon. She also was in The Edge of 17 a couple years ago. She's an up-and-coming star.
Yeah, she's in Pitch Perfect 2 and Pitch Perfect 3. You have to know this.
I had forgotten, Steven. My mistake. I'm not very familiar with these films.
They're so good. Okay.
They're good?
Different
Maybe
episode.
we'll do a review on these in the future. And this will be hosted by Steven at that point.
Okay,
solo.
Oh, goodness. You are in for a treat, is what I just heard.
We'll hold them to that, audience. Okay, so Gwen Stacy. What did you think of her character?
Awesome character. I didn't see it coming. I didn't realize that the girl at school was going to be another Spider-Man. Did you know that? Honestly, I haven't read the Spider-Man comic books, the Spider-Verse. So I didn't know that character.
Yeah, so I read like a couple issues of the Miles Morales storyline when he was introduced like a few years back. I think it was like 2010 or so. And Spider-Gwen, I think, was introduced a little bit after that. Okay. So I knew that they made Gwen Stacy in this alternate reality a Spider-Gwen. And she has... And the thing that kind of, I think, got people initially on board to support this new version of the character, because Gwen Stacy has existed for forever, is the suit. Her suit is badass.
It is super cool.
It's amazing. It's white and black, and it has the hood.
It's got the hood, but the inner lining of the hood is like purple with like a little turquoise on there.
And it has like the spider
and then
symbol.
you realize she's wearing ballerina slippers, right?
I did not realize
because she's a dancer.
I did not even pick.
And even I haven't even read the book, and I know she's a dancer. Well, at one point she says something like, it's something only a dancer could. It's a move only a dancer could pull off. And every one of her fighting moves was very elegant. It was very smooth like a dancer. It was very pretty like a dancer.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. She was the one spider character that really was really acrobatic, really was on her stuff. Like, she knew what she was doing, and she was really good at it.
Exactly. So that's why they wanted to emphasize her dancing, her history of dancing, which allowed her to become the smooth fighting, acrobatic Spider-Woman. And
you know what's interesting about her, that as well, and it goes to your point about the dancing like being helpful, is she was only a Spider-Woman for 2 years.
Right.
They say that
in her intro book. She says, for the last 2 years, I've been Spider-Man.
Right, and she was already probably the most proficient at it. compared to everyone else,
Mm-hmm.
every other character. Let's talk about one of those other characters that is not as proficient as her, which is old man Peter Parker.
He's just broken. He's just mentally and emotionally broken.
And he has a gut as well.
Yeah, that's the best part.
And
I love that everybody brings it up.
Everyone brings it up.
And he goes, I have heard this before.
Yeah,
somebody's like, you're out of shape. And he goes, I keep hearing this.
He's literally wearing sweatpants for like the first, like, I don't know, 20 minutes of the film.
Oh, it's so good.
He's fighting in sweatpants. He's swinging in sweatpants. Like, one of the first introductions to him, he's eating pizza.
He is Pizza Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I was just about to say that. He is pizza eating Spider-Man.
When he got sucked into the dimensional portal, he made sure to try to grab that pizza.
Yeah, he was trying to keep his pizza.
He was trying to keep the pizza.
It's an important part of your life.
That is true. It is a New York pizza.
It's so his personal introduction is so funny. He's like, and I really held it together, and it's him crying in the shower. Right.
So, just to give the audience some context on this, if you haven't seen it yet, Peter Parker, and by the way, obviously this is spoilers, so if you haven't seen it, then maybe you should go and see it. But basically, the old man Peter Parker, he's broken. Mary Jane has divorced him in this reality. What else? I think his...
He lost all his money. Because remember, he tried to open a restaurant and it failed. He tried to invest it into like the market and the market failed. So
penny stocks.
His entire life has been turned upside down.
Yeah.
And he's still trying to operate as Spider-Man and keep it together, but it's not going well.
Right. And he's kind of like the typical old man character that has to be convinced by the younger to-be mentee that he needs to come back into the game. And by the end, he becomes a better person for it. So, by the way, he was played by Josh Johnson from New Girl. Really good actor.
His character is very similar in my opinion, but he plays that character so often, and you expect it from him. The witty remarks, the real quick, snappy comebacks, and so it's really funny to watch. And I want to touch on the fact that in this movie, there's certain points when they recreate the Spider-Man memes from the internet. Like when he's hiding behind a rock and then he just disappears like an elevator. Like everything else has been 3D animated and moving like a real human. But when he just has to disappear behind the rock, he just elevator falls behind the rock.
His eyes squint. He just and the animation like changed to be meme-like.
It did. It was very flat and then just whoop.
They did that a few times. I think that's the most prominent example that we could talk about, but they did it a few times. It was good. Okay, next character is actually Spidey Noir, with the best actor of all time, Nicolas Cage.
Best actor of all time.
What did you think of that?
I didn't see it coming.
You didn't see that?
I didn't see it coming. I didn't see Nicolas Cage as being one of the characters. Yeah. So when I heard it, I went, ooh yeah. I was really excited.
Yeah.
I think I hit you.
So yeah,
I was sitting next to you, go, oh.
That's absolutely true. Immediately you're like on it. I actually didn't even know he was in the film.
Me neither.
So and I didn't recognize the voice though. It took you punching me like that's Nicolas Cage, the greatest actor of all time.
I didn't say greatest actor of all time.
You didn't say that last part. Yeah, that's true. So overall, what do you think of how he portrayed that character and that character in general?
It was perfect. I think that Spider-Man was written for him.
Yeah.
His style of presenting lines to us. It's very really really elegant and Nicolas Cage like. So
what's that impression of the old timey character that you got?
Put him up. No.
Here, see?
Yeah.
Nicolas Cage was really good. I thought that character was interesting. I felt like he might have been a little underutilized compared to the rest of the characters.
So
but they're future films planned, and we'll talk about that as well. The final one, and I don't know how much there's to say about this, but he's like probably my favorite. Spider Pig. What'd you think of him?
I love John Mulaney, so he's a hilarious comedian. It was a fun character. I think they could have done more with it.
So
we didn't get his intro.
Oh yeah,
he's the only comic book we didn't see the intro for.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that. I want him to be in some sequels though, because first of all, automatically I was invested in this film when I saw the mallet. He has a mallet, an old cartoon mallet, and an anvil.
He's a traditional cartoon character. Everything he does, everything he uses, was made by Acme. Like it's the anvil, the hammer, he has a giant magnet and sucks up the bad guy's guns. It was really good.
And he says at one point, didn't he say that's all, folks?
He did, and then one of the Spider-Man goes, "Can he say that? I mean, like legally?"
Yeah. Never get an answer to that.
Again, this is a really fun movie. They break the fourth wall constantly. They're interacting with us, the viewers, constantly.
Yeah. It's and that was one of the key characters that did that, of course. Okay, so let's talk about not a character. Well, he's a character in the film, but the real person, Stan Lee. Obviously Stan Lee passed away recently, and he's famously, Spider-Man is one of his most famous characters, if not the most famous character. And he's in this film. It's probably one of his last, if not the last.
Right. Yeah. I don't know when he recorded.
Right, we don't know when he recorded, but this is obviously going to be one of the last ones.
Right.
And what did you think of, again, how they honored him and his role?
Oh, they honored him beautifully. I mean, they even have a farewell to him in the ending credits. I thought it was fun. I thought his character was well placed. He was a cashier that kind of gave Miles a little bit of a hard time. A little evil smirk on his face, like, haha, no returns,
Yeah, and then they showed the no return sign.
Yeah.
It was kind of a quiet scene. You get a little chuckle out of it, but it's not really. It's meant to be more poignant and emotional. Yeah. And I think that was the right decision.
Yeah. It gave the audience that moment, and you kind of heard it was the oh no.
Yeah. Yeah, because he's known most of his cameos. He's known for their comedic. They're silly, and that's what he liked to do. It was fun, but at this point, it made sense to go the opposite way at this point. So that was good. I wanted to talk a little bit about Kingpin and just the general villains of the film. I thought Kingpin, first of all, the animation of Kingpin just made me laugh every time. He's just this hulking black box.
He's huge. They made him really big.
Well, Kingpin's always really huge, but he's just a box in a black suit with a neck that is halfway down his body. And it is hilarious.
I don't think he has a neck at all. I know what you're saying. You're saying his shoulders are so high.
His shoulders are so high that his head is just...
It's hiding behind his shoulders.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. And first of all, so that made me really like the character automatically because it was hilarious. And watch him go through doors and stuff. I just chuckling the entire time. And seriously though, his motivation in this, they went the Vanessa route. And for any viewers out there that have watched Daredevil, at least the first season, Vanessa is his wife. And in this film, she tragically passes away after she catches Kingpin beating Spider-Man. Basically almost to death.
You're right.
And so Vanessa, his wife at the time in this film, takes their son, gets in a car, and speeds away. And then while she's speeding away from the office, they get hit by a truck.
Right. Yeah,
and
car
pass
accident.
away. And so his whole motivation in this film is to crack the dimensional walls so he can get another version of his wife, Vanessa, and his son into this reality. And so he doesn't care about money. He doesn't care about the heroes. He doesn't really care about Spider-Man. He just doesn't want anyone to get his way to that goal. So I thought that was an emotional beat that I liked, that I don't often see with Kingpin. And yeah, I really like that character. I hope he comes back in another one as well.
I'm sure he will.
It is the Kingpin.
Yeah, it's the Kingpin.
Also, we have to talk quickly about Doc Ock. Dr. Octavius is in this film, but it's not Dr. Octavius. It is a different character played by a woman, and I forgot the actress's name, but you kind of don't see it coming.
Katherine Heign.
Yeah. And you don't see it coming that she's the scientist that works for Kingpin, and then she reveals herself as Doc Ock.
Later on. You've seen her once or twice. You heard her, and then she's talking to Kingpin, and then the next thing you know, she's Doc Ock, and you're like, "Oh, I didn't see that. That was a twist for me. I didn't see it coming."
Yeah, and I thought she played that role really well as well.
Really well.
There's a bit of a empathetic side to the character as well.
Really?
Yeah.
She just wanted to make her dimensional warp. I mean, that's what she was she just wanted to prove that she could make it.
You know what it was? There was a quirky element to the character. So it made it, she seemed approachable at first before she revealed herself.
Okay.
You see?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, I'm right about that.
I'm so right.
Okay, so let's talk about the Uncle Aaron conversation we were having off air. So the key moment to me of Miles deciding to become Spider-Man and like embracing his destiny to become Spider-Man is his dad goes to his dorm room. Miles is tied up by the old Peter Parker because they don't want them to go off with him, with them, and so he can't speak to his dad. His mouth is basically shut. His dad talks to him, and he's basically saying, "Hey, Miles, we haven't talked in a while, but I believe in you, son." And he's kind of giving him a motivational speech, but also from an element of despair because Uncle Aaron, the father's brother, passed away in this film. I feel like that is the moment Miles became Spider-Man, and I think Steven was talking about earlier that it's Uncle Aaron dying.
So I think it's no. My final decision was that it was a combination of the two. Mm-hmm. That without one, there was not the other. Mm-hmm. So Uncle Aaron has to die so that Miles can have his Uncle Ben moment. He has major loss, which makes him kind of light his fire a little bit, get a little kick in the butt. And for this movie specifically, it's important because it allows him to say something like, "You don't understand," and all the other Spider-Men and women say, "Yeah, we have literally been there where you are now. How can you not see that?" And then again, without Uncle Aaron having passed away or being shot, Miles' father would not have come to Miles and said what he had said, which is, I've always said, you have a choice, but you got to do what I want you to do. He changes his own thinking and says, you can do what you want to do, but I see a spark in you, and I want you to light that fire.
Yeah, and Miles takes that, and immediately he just instantly turns it on and becomes Spider-Man.
Yeah, perfect.
Immediately when he hears
sure.
that. And that's actually one other quick thing I wanted to mention: the power set of Miles. What did you think of that?
His cool abilities.
Yeah, camouflage and like electric. Powers.
Yeah. He has. What do you want to call it? Electric fist? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember what they call it in the comics, but it's some sort of electrical current.
Older Peter Parker said something, and I couldn't catch on to it. He said it real quick.
I thought he only said goober.
He said goober a lot.
Goober a lot.
Yeah, basically he doesn't know what anything's called, so he calls everything a goober.
All right, let's quickly go over two last topics. Thoughts on a sequel. So, let me give you some context. There's reported that the next film is going to concentrate on Gwen Stacy and Miles' relationship. Mm-hmm. Whether that's romantic or friendship, we don't necessarily know.
Sure.
But that will be the concentration. And at the end, you kind of see, while Miles is going to sleep, Gwen reaching out to him through the dimensional portal.
Yeah. So definitely, absolutely, it opens the door for the sequel. I think it'd be silly not to at least give us the option for a sequel. And by at least having that scene, there is the ability to have a sequel. Mm-hmm. I feel, as well as this movie has done, that they will definitely make a sequel.
Are there... I don't know how familiar you are with Spider-Man and the characters. Nothing... Anything you want to say?
No, I mean... Oh, you mean what do I want to see?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just want to see more flipping around. I mean, when they were flying through the air, it was awesome. The way Miles moves as Spider-Man is unique.
Right.
It's very... I want to say hip-hop. The way that he kind of he has like a jam to him. Like he's got a rhythm to the way he moves. And it's not as fluid and elegant as Gwen, for example. And it's not as traditional as Peter Parker.
Right. That's absolutely true. And also the way he swings through the city is absolutely different.
Yeah,
It's
that's
not
what I'm
just
saying. Like,
yeah.
any way he moves, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so final topic is just the quick box office rundown. It looked like it opened to 35 million over the weekend, and that was domestically. Is that what you expected with this? And do you think that's a good sign?
I hope so. I'm disappointed in their marketing on this movie. I barely saw, if anything, a preview on actual television. Most of the marketing and advertising I saw were on social media and on the internet. I know that's where most people spend their time, but I didn't see a billboard. I didn't see a big poster anywhere. We're also not in New York City where they plaster streets with billboards and work signs.
Yeah, I think the only real advertisement I saw, I think they might have done a commercial in Super Bowl like a year ago or something about this.
Oh, and when they did the first teaser.
The first teaser, and that just announced that this was a movie.
Right.
But other than that, you're right. I don't think I saw anything else, and I only knew about this from, like you said, other podcasts and different websites and so on.
Yeah, it was shared. I saw it shared several times in social media formats, but never any traditional marketing pieces came out. I will say when I saw the teaser the first time, I was very excited to see it, but I didn't think it was an actual movie.
How do you mean?
Well, because it was a cartoon or animated. I felt that I think my first impression was that it was going to be an online movie or like a Netflix movie or a TV series. I didn't jump to big box office theater movie.
Yeah, we were talking about it earlier. It's kind of a weird animation. Like most animation that are really successful nowadays are like Disney, Pixar, and those are aimed at really small kids, and those can make billions of dollars. But that's a very particular type of computer animation. This had a different style and tone to it that was aimed at an older audience, and it doesn't feel as marketable.
I would say it was aimed at purists, but I don't want to be that pretentious about it, but people who like comic books. This was a comic book that came to life. Yeah. On screen. That's what I think they were shooting for. That's absolutely true. And on that note, we do have to tell you, stay for the end credit scenes. I'll leave it there. There's a post-credit scene, and when I say post-credit, they waited till the end of the credits. End of the credits. So do wait. It's very, very good. It's worth it. It's totally worth it. All right, so that'll wrap it up for episode 2, our Spider-Verse review. You can find the Porgcorner at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and other social networks.